Those who criticize our generation forget who raised it, and also forget, or just don't have a clue, what position they have left us in. So it is our turn now to fix what has been done, and we must stand up, and we must stand up quickly, for our next generation, for our grandchildren, before it's too late. So I just want to ask you one question, and that question is, what does freedom mean to you?
The banksters' fraud continues now.
So I think we should come together and work together, and I think we can.
Well, the Fed is completely out of control. It's not under any legal controls that Congress can really enforce.
And right now, ultimately, they are more powerful than any emperor has ever been.
It's not about Democrat, Republican. People who say it is, that's not true. This is about right or wrong, up or down.
Today, I think it was a historic day because we agreed on 4 major areas. Foreign policy, get the soldiers back, stop being imperialistic. Privacy, deal with the repeal of the Patriot Act. And third is the national debt. You know, deficits are now used for reckless government adventurism. And the fourth issue is the Federal Reserve is now a government within a government. It is totally out of control. Congress doesn't control it. It's funded by the banks. And we either have constitutional government or we don't. Because of this, well, here's the question. Is there anything left for the American people to decide?
You vote for a Republican to balance a budget, and they're worse than the Democrats. That's what the people are sick and tired of. You vote for the Democrats to end the war, and they expand the war as much as the Republicans.
I'll rephrase the question for Ralph. Who's the lesser of 2 bads right now?
The lesser of 2 bads is not good enough for the American people. We need the best.
The crisis is much bigger than what they even are talking about, because they're not talking about the real crisis, and that is the bankruptcy of the whole country and the destruction of the dollar. And when we're going to bring our troops home and change our foreign policy, I mean, this is much bigger than they think it is.
A lot of people are pointing fingers. Who do you say is to blame for the situation right now?
What do you want to go back to the Federal Reserve Act of 1913?
All wars are fought with inflation, destruction of the money, which is the reason we have unemployment today.
$30 million an hour. 24 hours a day we're spending on those 2 wars. $30 million an hour.
I'm trying to get you to understand what the motive was behind the bombing. At the same time, we had been bombing and killing hundreds of thousands of Iraqis for 10 years. Would you be annoyed? If you're not annoyed, then there's some problem.
Republican Congressmember Ron Paul of Texas speaking last night at the Republican presidential debate. Noam Chomsky, your response.
I think what he said is completely uncontroversial.
We have broken from reality, a psychotic nation, ignorance with a pretense of knowledge replacing wisdom, an epidemic of cronyism, a central bank that deliberately destroys the value of the currency in secrecy, without restraint, without nary a whimper.
This is not the kind of government that was designed by our founders of the country. It's not what was written in the Constitution. We've only had an income tax since 1913. But if you want a welfare state, and if you want to police the world and pay for the defense of Japan and Germany, send foreign aid to the Soviet Union, you not only need the income tax, you need the Federal Reserve to print up the money when the deficit is accumulated. So we think the government should be much smaller.
During the next decade, the American people will become poorer and less free, while they become more dependent on the government for economic security. This country is in the middle of a recession for a lot of people. Michigan knows about it. Poor people know about it. The middle class knows about it. Wall Street doesn't know about it. Washington, D.C. doesn't know about it. But it's because of the monetary system and the excessive spending.
It's no joke. He is America's last true statesman, and he has actually been saying the same thing for the past 30 years. about what our federal government needs to do to serve the people. That is, namely, follow the Constitution.
The Federal Reserve credit created during the last 8 months has not stimulated economic growth in technology or the industrial sector, but a lot of it ended up in the expanding real estate bubble. This too will burst, as all bubbles do.
How could it be that you knew this on the banking committee in 2003 and nobody else did until after the collapse?
I certainly think it's about the most foolish policy any government could ever follow, and it leads to the Korea Wars, the Vietnam Wars, Marines being killed in Beirut, sailors being killed in the Persian Gulf.
If we want to go to war, and if we should go to war, the Congress should declare it. We don't go to war like we did in Vietnam and Korea, because the wars never end. They're building up this case just like we did in Iraq. Build up the war propaganda. There was no Al-Qaeda in Iraq, and they had nuclear weapons, and we had to go in. I'm sure you supported that war as well. Okay. It's time we quit this. It's time. It's trillions of dollars we're spending on these wars.
Afghanistan, how quickly would you bring the troops
quick
home?
As the ships could get there.
It really says a lot that the politically aware people in the military, those that are paying attention and engaged in the political process, are supporting someone who advocates an immediate withdrawal.
I got twice as much as all the other candidates put together on the Republican side, and even more than Obama got, which tells me that those troops want to come home as well, because they know exactly what I'm talking about.
My name is Eric Knowles. I'm an Air Force veteran.
My name is Jonathan Schaefer. I spent 6 years in the Navy.
Hello, my name is Tony Marek. I served in the Army for 8 years.
I'm Al Schlegel. I'm an 8-year Air Force veteran.
Hi, my name is John Jones, and I'm a U.S. Air Force veteran.
I have a cousin who's in the Marine Corps. He spent 18 months over in Iraq. A war based on a lie.
There's great reason to have hope for Ron Paul's candidacy, as he's the only veteran in the Republican primary right now, the only representative in Congress that takes his oath to the Constitution and the rule of law seriously.
You sign up for the military, and you sign the dotted line. You're there to defend America and the Constitution, and Ron Paul is the only person that's been doing that for a while now.
I support Ron Paul because I believe he's the only candidate with the fortitude to actually stand by the Constitution.
I took an oath to support defend the Constitution, and he is the only elected representative that actually takes his oath seriously.
I think he's dead on when he talks about the Federal Reserve System. It's only because the government is able to print money to pay for the war that we're able to stay at war. And that act of printing money makes us all poor.
It's been going on and on because we just plain don't mind our own business. That's our problem. During the last campaign, I knew what was happening. You know, they mocked me for my foreign policy, and they laughed at my monetary policy. No more.
President Obama has 42% of voter support, and Representative Ron Paul, 41%. Wow!
I see a fantastic movement at the grassroots.
All you have to do is let your voice be heard. And in his